Two high priorities of the Rock Island County government are moving forward, but far from a blistering pace. The county board remains committed to demolishing the old county courthouse. It's been met with legal challenges. Opponents have been able to delay the process, but so far not able to definitively keep it from the wrecking ball. The county is only required to keep a record of the building's past for historical preservation purposes. Right now, the county is waiting for guidance about how to do that. The county board's also on track to reduce the size of the membership from the current 25 to 19. It's been criticized for being too bloated, especially for a community this size. We've now seen the Rock Island County Courthouse issue and the push to downsize the county board go on for years now. The board's been highly involved in both, and progress is being made, slowly if you will. And we'll get to that this morning with Rock Island County Board Chair Richard Brunk. He joins us for a conversation this morning. Great to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you, Jim. Thanks.
Let's start with the courthouse. You've maintained for the last couple of years now that nothing can be done to stop the courthouse from being demolished. Are you still confident in that?
Yes, I am. There's a history, as you mentioned, over the last few years. The board initially made the decision based on long-term plans for county facilities and the best interest of the taxpayers. The board has decided to maintain that course. There was obviously the litigation that slowed the process, but as of right now, we are working with IDNR and are hopeful that we'll get the guidance on the recordation process, which will essentially wrap up the consultation process, which we're required to go through, wrap that up and allow demolition to proceed here relatively shortly, I would anticipate.
How do you feel about the time it's taking to get that green light to tear down the building?
I understand the concern. I myself have been criticized for referring to myself as a preservationist. I live in my 121-year-old childhood home. While we attempted to find a way to renovate it for county use, I understand the passion for old buildings and old architecture. I truly do. Unfortunately, this has taken longer than we had hoped, and there's been some cost to it, obviously. But ultimately, in the long run, it will still be a very, very positive step for the taxpayers of Rock Island County.
We're talking about documenting the building's history. That's what you talk about, the recordation process for the State Historic Preservation Office. Do you have any idea how far along that process is? What exactly goes into that process, essentially?
Well, that is actually the guidance that we are waiting for from the DNR at this time, is exactly what they would like to see as part of that recordation process. There are different degrees, if you will, or things that can be included in the recordation process, and those are the instructions that we are waiting to hear from the IDNR on.
So that hasn't started yet. Okay, so that's obviously, it's going to take even longer probably. So what Rock Island County has spent more than $200,000 on legal fees and consulting fees and more, I'm sure, to meet the state's requirements of doing all of this work ahead of time. How do you respond to people in the county who think this whole thing just might be a waste of taxpayer money?
Well, as I've mentioned, Jim, the board had made the initial decision and continued to maintain the stance that the demolition of the building was in the best interest of county operations and the taxpayers in the long run. The reason for that being that the county's long-term plan, since long before I was even on the board, has been to consolidate facilities downtown to create long-term efficiencies, and everyone should recognize that the more efficient the county can operate, the lower the cost to the taxpayers. So, the board stands by, its decisions over the last several years, as being in the best interest of county operations and the taxpayers. It's unfortunate that these monies had to be spent, but the reality is, in the long run, even with these monies spent, it is a good investment, if you will, for the taxpayers of Rock Island County.
Given where you are, waiting for that guidance to do the recordation work, to record the building's history, when do you think this actually could happen in terms of demolition? And how soon, let's say once you get the clearance, how soon could work start after that?
The county administrator has already spoken to some firms that are interested in taking on the project. So I would imagine once we get the guidance from IDNR I wouldn't believe it would take very long at all to have a firm start working on that actual recordation process.
And then how long do you have any idea how long that would take, and then be able to potentially start getting clearance to demolish the building?
That may depend on the specific requirements outlined by the IDNR. That being said, I can tell you that there's already a lot of historical data that the county has collected on the building, which I believe will be beneficial to the consultant that will be working on the recordation process.